It is Ryan Seacrest here. Everybody needs some variety in life. That's what I love about Chumba Casino. They know how to keep things fresh and exciting. All their games are free to play, like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire. You can claim free daily login bonuses, too. And they release new games every week. So spice things up with ChumbaCasino.com now for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Cinesmack contains spoilers of the spoiling type. If you don't want your spoilers spoiled, please turn back now. Otherwise, enjoy the show!
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds. Lawrence?
Ladies and gentlemen! Welcome to the main event! This is Cinesmack! And the winner is...
Hello, Cinesmacketeers, and welcome to bout number 159 of Cinesmack, the podcast about films by filmmakers. I am your host, Mike Keeler. Joining me tonight is our panel of award-winning judges. First, filmmaker and owner of Arizona Ink Studios, Andrew, I'd buy that for $1, Zumwalt.
Rico's Roughnecks! Whoa!
Second, filmmaker and owner of Cheshire Moon Films, Tom, they sucked his brains out, Haggis.
Yeah, so I know that by the time this episode's over, we're all going to go through some emotional shock, and I will be notifying the Rape Crisis Center.
Third, writer, actor, and director, Kyle, I'm cashing you out, Bob. Fine.
The immortal words of the girl I lost my virginity to. Let's get this over with.
Fourth, filmmaker and owner of One Genome Short Productions, Gabriel Medic Rowald.
Come quietly, or there will be trouble.
All right.
He's a real robot.
What?
Let's poke the
I
monkey.
am a robot. I am AI.
Find out what we're discussing.
Ladies and gentlemen, cyborg cops and citizen soldiers, welcome to the main event. Tonight, it's a Dutch double feature. 2 futuristic films featuring hyper-violent heroes unload. It's Paul versus Paul. Winner take all. In the first quarter, from 1987, written by Edward Neumeier and Michael Miner, directed by Paul Verhoeven, starring Kurtwood Smith, Nancy Allen, and Peter Weller. Robocop! In the second corner, from 1997, written by Edward Neumeier and Robert A. Heinlein, directed by Paul Verhoeven, starring Dina Meyer, Denise Richards, and Casper Van Dien. Starship Trooper!
All right. So RoboCop, real quick, I have not watched RoboCop in a long time, simply because at 10 years old, not even 10 yet, I was 9. My brother knew I loved robots, and he saw ads for a movie about a RoboCop and decided to take me to see the movie, and he did not check that it was rated R. I, needless to say, suffered from nightmares for about the next year after seeing that movie. And I remember the first time I watched it years later after I had first seen it. And I was still like breaking out in sweats because I was traumatized. I think I had PTSD from watching RoboCop when I was 9. So
I completely relate. I went through the same thing when I was 47. Yeah.
when you were 47. All right, let's poke the monkey. Talk about our first round, which is writing.
Well, we have a Verhoeven free for all. Okay, I'm done. Yeah, these
terrible.
movies. Thank you. That's your AI opinion. So all you're
Yes,
doing
it is.
I thought it was Werner Herzog. That was a really good Werner Herzog.
it was more Werner Herzog.
I hate nature. Nature destroys man.
This show just got way better.
Yeah, I've repeated Werner Herzog's the rest of the show. Okay, these movies. Okay, writing. Well, these are obvious. A guy who is very well known for satires, Robocop being one of the preeminent in its field. When we talk about these movies, I want to start with the titles. They are so nondescript of what you are about to witness, the horror that is about to unfold with you. And I feel like that is a conscious decision to be like, yeah, this is a funny movie about a robot cop. And then you watch absolute horror unfold in front of your eyes. And same with Starship Troopers. Oh, these are glorious people going out fighting for Earth's survival. No, just a lot of them getting murdered over and over and over again. And Verhoeven's very well known for using violence as a satire and commentary on modern media, modern culture, imperialist ideas. Like Starship Troopers is a real takedown of propaganda, and I think it does it incredibly well. Robocop being such a satire of sleazy 80s businessmen doing anything for a buck, the lack of value in the human life. If it bleeds, it leads on news. Rich white people deciding the fate of entire, million population cities, and police corruption and things. I think that they are some of the best satires that have been done, because they also slap you in the face with this hyperviolence that brings your attention to what's going on and really keeps you intrigued. Now, as far as the story goes, RoboCop is very light on plot. It has a lot to do with spectacle and situation, going from beat to beat, scene to scene, and the actual machinations of like the bad guys, what's going on with OCP, what's going on with Murphy. It does touch on some interesting things, but it's pretty bare bones. It's a lot of RoboCop walking slowly and firing a badass gun. But it also has some great scenes, like when he stops the female assault. That is an all-time funny scene in such a serious movie. Shooting the guy's dick off through the skirt. I think it's hilarious. I did see a picture of someone at Comic-Con with Peter Weller. I think that's his name, right? And the girl had a shirt that said, "Remember that scene in RoboCop when RoboCop shoots that guy's dick off?" And he's just laughing in the picture. I thought that was so funny. I will say this for Starship Troopers. There's a lot more going on plot-wise. There's a lot of more character development, for good or bad, what you think about these characters. There's a lot more about their actual life. You learn their interconnectedness. There's a lot more world building about what our responsibility is in the wars with the bugs and what we think of them, and all this propaganda and all those things. So I think it's a much richer story. Now, when we get to acting, I think that's where it's going to kind of fall apart a bit. But the story of Starship Troopers I actually found kind of interesting. RoboCop was a lot of set piece over and over again. And RoboCop, despite having titanium alloy shells, has a lot of plot armor because he should have been dead about 1,000 times. No one can shoot this guy in the face. But I don't know how much of Kurtwood Smith's dialogue was improvised. But if any of that was written in the script, it's amazing. He has some of the best bad guy lines in movies. He'd go on and play the dad in the 70s show, and you'd never know that. He's such a good bad guy. And Manuel Ferrara as the sleazy businessman. Like, man, it's such a good takedown of like 80s and 90s, like coked out business bros. It's pretty funny. All right, I'm going to stop rambling.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the satire label gets slapped on these after the fact. Like I honestly hadn't seen these movies yet, and I watched them, and through the lens now in 2024, I don't think they're very good movies, and I don't really think that they're satire. So the thought I kept having when I was watching this, if you have to tell somebody that like something is a joke, like then it's not a joke, where you have to explain a joke to somebody, then it's not a very good joke. And if the fact that they have to kind of keep repeating to people like, no, it's satire, Robocop and Starship Troopers and Showgirls and his entire catalog, you don't have to tell people that Heathers or Dr. Strangelove is satire. It's very obvious that it's satire because it's very, very well done. I don't feel that this is satire that's very well done. It feels like any other shitty action movie from the 80s or any other shitty sci-fi movie from the 90s, and I didn't even think they were particularly entertaining. And the stories and the dialogue, like, you can't just make something bad and then call it satire and get a pass. And because satire can be done well, and I don't think that satire is done very well here. And the fact that Paul Verhoeven, in my opinion, doesn't have a really good movie anywhere in his history is just proof that he's not a very good filmmaker. Despite the fact, somehow, that these two movies have 3 Oscar nominations between them. But I'm not going to even go there, even though I just did. So...
Yeah, you did. You're going to have to explain that later because I'm not sure what was it nominated for. I can see visual effects on some of these.
Visual effects for Starship Troopers, sound editing, and
sure.
sound and film editing for RoboCop. So
those I can actually see.
I mean, yeah, look, I don't really know what special effects and sound Oscars were like back then. I wasn't paying attention to those categories at the time, so. Sure, maybe these were the best that year. I don't know. There was a time when they always gave it to like the best action movies, which they stopped doing like 2 years ago. But so I guess there was a time when they could happen. But as far as story and dialogue, I don't feel like they're very good. And I feel like Paul Verhoeven's just like, we're gonna make this movie and we're gonna have a lot of fun doing it. It's gonna be super ultra violent. And if anybody asks us, just tell them it's satire. So. And I don't know. If it's satire, it's bad satire. So that is my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I can't say that I disagree. I feel like the writing on these is really it falls into 2 categories for me. The concepts are interesting. The idea of creating a robotic cop from a deceased human or whatever, the concept is really interesting and it has a lot of potential.
I agree.
And the same with Starship Troopers, having some alien, it's not necessarily all that unique, but having some really seriously alien type of creatures attacking Earth and then fighting back, it's a good concept. And a lot of times when we see aliens in movies, they're humanoid. They're somewhat relatable in that they're humanoid. But one of the things about Starship Troopers is that they're not. They represent all the things that creep us out here on Earth. They're still earthly, if that makes sense, because they're bugs and they're recognizable as something that we see on Earth and something on Earth that creeps us out. But they're not humanoid. And, the fact that they exhibit any kind of intelligence and that kind of stuff, that, the concept there is really interesting. I think it's really the actual writing and the execution that kind of fail overall. And I don't know if they were going for things kind of like, Terminator and, Commando type one-liners, that kind of thing. But the dialogue is awful in these movies. Character development, it goes two ways for me for character development. There's not enough character development in Robocop. It's very kind of superficial and basic. And then there's way too much character development in Starship Troopers. I don't care about, 45 minutes of this movie, the first half of this movie at least, is developing these relationships between all these characters. And I'm like, I get it. It's a love quadrangle or whatever you want to call it, because it's more than a triangle, And it's like, oh my God, I get it. He loves her, she loves him, she loves him, he loves her. I get that. We don't need to keep hammering this home. And I also know where this is going. When you set up those relationships immediately, I know where this is going. I know that this person's going to die and this one's going to get hurt or whatever. And they just took so much time with that. And I don't feel like it added to the story or the suspense in it at all. And so I felt like if that's what the story was about, is the relationships between these people, it really kind of was drawn out too long.
I think they were satirizing relationships. That's what they were doing.
maybe, and a lot of it felt very cliche. It's like, okay, well, he loves her, she loves him. Oh wait, there's this hunky guy on the other team that she kind of likes, and now there's this jealousy. But then there's jealousy between the girls because there's this girl in class that likes him, and and it's just okay. Please make it stop. I just felt like we can get that. I think. And I don't know about viewers in 1997, but I feel like even then we can get that pretty quickly. We can pick up on that pretty quickly. We don't need to hammer that home. And I feel like it went through the whole movie. There was that kind of pressure for us to understand these relationships throughout the whole movie. Dialogue was generally terrible. There's a few one-liners that are kind of fun, but man, I don't know. I feel like the writing is pretty weak. It really left me wanting something more from great concepts. We had great concepts that really fell flat.
Can I just point out real quick? Gabe could not find the word love square, so he went with love quadrangle.
Yes, love.
They were very square.
I could have gone with rhombus. A romantic rhombus.
Oh my God. Well, there's your indie film from the 90s.
Yeah, that was the name of my ska band.
Pick it up.
It's the name of rhombus. Sex
tape. Look it up. Yeah. Tom, but Tom, you need to register that URL. romanticrhombus.com.
Gabe, I could see you as the interpretive dance guy in a ska band.
Thanks.
Just wearing a zoot suit and
Oh, a zoot suit. Yeah, I'd wear a zoot suit. Yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be fun.
Andrew.
Yeah, so I saw these movies completely different than you guys. So I have completely different point of view, I guess. Robocop I saw as this dark, gritty, just kind of trying to push, government's bad, corporations are bad type movie, where it was just kind of this dark action cop movie and less satire. I guess I've never really thought of it as a satire, but I guess you could call it that. I just never really pictured it in that way for the many times that I have seen it growing up and rewatching it again. So Starship Troopers, 100% a satire. It is a goofy, over-the-top comedy, weird. The way I've explained it to people that have never seen it before, it is Saved by the Bell in space with bugs. That's the best way to describe Starship Troopers. It has all the characters, all the goofiness, all of the weird love crap that you would see in Saved by the Bell with all the goofiness, and they add a lot of grit and guts and war. And that's pretty much the way it is. It is a great popcorn movie. I can't say a lot about the other four, but I think it is a very fun movie. RoboCop is a dark movie. So that's my take on him. So mine's completely different. I'm a little, I guess I'm the outsider.
Funny you
I'm
mentioned
not sure.
Saved by the Bell. Sorry, Heather is a huge Saved by the Bell fan, and I watched Starship Troopers with her, and the bad pilot guy, I guess, who Denise Richards falls for. She once broke up Zach and Kelly.
Yep.
On
he steals Kelly.
Yeah, Saved by the Bell, but then he cheated on her, so she went back to Zach. So
Son of a bitch.
Really?
yeah,
That asshole.
Which I could Denise Richards. Kelly Kapowski though, come on.
Well,
Yeah, I'm not sure that, I think I agree with you on a certain level, Andrew, in that I'm not sure that and with Tom, I think Tom also said that, these things get slapped with the label of satire when people don't know exactly how to categorize them. And I'm not sure I felt like they were. I knew that coming in this time. I've seen both of these movies before, and I knew we had discussed some stuff before and discussed that they were satires. And I was expecting that, and I think I looked at it differently when I was watching them, and I'm like, no, I don't see it necessarily as a satire. I'm not quite sure what they're satirizing, if that's a word, in these movies exactly.
Gabe talking well after the round ended screen came up.
Yeah. So anyway, I was just saying that I think I agree with you, Andrew. I'm not sure I see them as other people.
Well, I
do.
think he was saying he doesn't see RoboCop as a satire, but Starship Troopers is 100% satire. Yeah, because it was written that way in the book.
I guess I just
The
don't
novel
get.
is written that way.
Yeah.
Well, the novel's very pro-military.
Yes.
It's not.
And
it's not anti-military the way Starship Troopers is.
No, but it was written by a very left-leaning author who wanted to do a satire about military and
not the original Starship Troopers. The original Starship Troopers was written by a very hardline military man, and then later it was taken on, like there was a book done that was sort of a reply to that.
And all the trivia that I have found, that's not what it's saying.
Oh, okay. Maybe I read Wikipedia wrong.
It could also be that the trivia that I was reading on IMDb has been edited to make people feel better about liking the movie. That's true.
Are you editing Wikipedia again, Kyle?
Oh, yeah, that's me.
Yeah. All right. Let's put it to a vote. Kyle.
Oh Jesus!
Okay, well, it's obvious people in this podcast don't know what satire means, so I'm going to go with Starship Troopers.
All right. Gabe.
I'm also going to go with Starship Troopers.
All right. Tom.
I don't know, man. God, I don't want to have little asterisks on this show, but I don't want to. Seriously, I've been dreading this. Like, I guess RoboCop, because I can't vote. Well, I can't vote Starship Troopers for acting, but shit, I think I painted myself into a corner here.
Yep. Andrew.
Saved by the Bell.
Got it. Writer Edward Neumeier was a script reader at Warner Brothers who hated his job as he wanted to pursue his dream of writing a screenplay about a robot that became a cop. After pitching a script,
Is this real?
Yes. After pitching,
This is how he got his revenge.
After pitching a script that was successfully filmed, Risky Business, 1983, he was made an executive, so he saw his chance to write a movie. Coincidentally, fellow scribe Michael Miner was working on a script about a human cop who becomes a robot, so it was natural progression for the two to join forces. Neumeier took 10 days off to start writing the script, claiming that his grandfather had died, for which he feels guilty to this day since the studio actually sent him flowers. The same Edward Neumeier started writing an original script called Bug Hunt at Outpost 9 when similarities with a Robert A. Heinlein novel were pointed out. The novel was optioned and the name licensed. So same screenwriter, essentially, for both films. Let's move on to our second round, which is acting.
Wow. Was there acting in these movies? I don't know. It's hard. I think this relates a little bit to what we were discussing in the previous round with, is this satire, is it not? And I feel like when you do satire, like campy acting is maybe in some cases almost mandatory in order to point out how ridiculous these characters in the storyline is. But I feel like Paul Verhoeven, his thing is not really to get great performances out of his actors necessarily. I don't feel like there was a lot of great acting in these movies. However, I do feel like Peter Weller really did a good job with the robotic movements of Robocop. I felt like I like that. Maybe that's just kind of like, doing the robot kind of dancing or whatever. But I really liked how he moved as Robocop because it didn't make him seem very mechanical. And I thought he really pulled that off quite well. Starship Troopers, I don't know. I feel like all the actors in Starship Troopers were selected based on their physical attractiveness. I mean, all the main actors were just ridiculously attractive. But I'm not sure they gave really compelling performances that made me feel for them. And like I said, in the writing round, they really tried. They really just pounded this whole thing about these relationships and that kind of thing. But I didn't really feel strongly that any of them felt strongly about each other. I just didn't really get an emotional reaction out of these actors. There were a lot of fun character actors in Starship Troopers. Michael Ironside, I really liked. There are a bunch of actors that are in it that are fun to watch on the screen, but I'm not sure there are any great performances anywhere to be had. And I don't know, maybe you guys will disagree with me, but I think that goes across the board for these movies. And I think my favorite thing, like I said, is Peter Weller acting like a robot, and he did a pretty good job of that. Anyone else? Is that it?
You kind of summed it up. I just
I was afraid. Yeah, maybe I covered it all.
No, I think the acting, the really horrible acting in both these movies, kind of underscores the fact that I don't think it's satire. Like did Paul Verhoeven seek out the worst actors he could find? It's like no. They're like, hey, we got Gene Hackman and Dustin Hoffman coming in to read for RoboCop. He's like, no, I need shitty actors because this is a satire. Like having shitty actors doesn't make it more satire. Just like I don't like. It just made it worse, And and I guess I don't know how do you wind up with actors of this caliber in these movies, like unintentionally. Like, I mean, the statistical odds of getting like this many bad actors together in one movie, it's either, I mean, it's odd. It's just very strange to me. And can Paul Verhoeven not attract great actors, or is he intentionally seeking them out because he doesn't want them to, I don't know, over deliver on the amazing script that Edward handed him? Just, I don't know. I really hated these movies. I was angry. I was so angry when I got done watching them, and there's hardly anything redeeming in any of them. So, and the acting in Starship Troopers was probably like the one thing that really, really upset me the most. It's just like, this is just bad acting, just really bad acting. And I like Neil Patrick Harris. I think he's great.
Yeah,
he was not good in this.
Well, he didn't have much to work with, but I was just about to say that, I would give him a little bit of credit because he's still charismatic on screen. Michael Ironside and Neil Patrick Harris are still charismatic on screen.
Yeah.
And then
what about the prison guy from Shawshank? He was all right.
Oh, the warden guy?
Yeah.
Clancy Brown.
Clancy Brown, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but his part wasn't. That goes back to writing too. That's a weird thing where he's kind of at the beginning, and then he's the guy who quote unquote captures the bug, the smart bug, and we don't know how that happened in any way.
He's afraid. Anyway, he's afraid. I guess I look at the acting for both of these movies again. Starship Troopers, there are no performances here that I'm like, oh my god, I felt that was incredible. Like, it felt like a bunch of guys got together and went like, let's make this crazy space bug movie. We're gonna just kind of be fun, and it's just gonna be goofy, and you're gonna get whatever you're gonna get out of it. And yeah, maybe that's not the best way, but it makes a great popcorn movie, and it makes a lot of these guys do goofy stuff that they probably have not done before, or maybe never will again. I mean, Neil Patrick Harris is not in any of the sequels for a reason. And Neil Patrick Harris,
these people are really
in the
sequels.
They are. Rico,
with the exception of, when does he come back?
He comes back in 3. He's in 3 and 4.
Well, Casper Van Dien needs money too. He's got to keep his SAG card. I thought Michael Ironsides was great.
He was just here too, wasn't he?
But in RoboCop, again, it's like there's some neat moments, but it definitely fits a form. It's very traditional 80s, 90s kind of feel to that mold of a weird action with your bad guy, corporate guy, your double agent. We've got Red, who hated the marijuana smokers, and he's there dealing crack cocaine. It's a formula. Did they get the best out of those actors that they possibly could?
Yes.
For all of the actors, I would say there are some actors in both of these films that have better chops than that. But there are other ones that it's just like, yeah, all right.
I don't think Michael Ironside is ever going to be nominated for an Oscar.
I would agree.
But he serves his role, and I think that's the thing. The acting in these movies is at the service of the story and the feel that they're trying to tell. So it's not important in Starship Troopers that the actors emote greatly. It's more that they are fulfilling their role as telling, as both satirizing, I'll use that word, on-screen relationships and friendships and all these love triangles and quadrangles and rhombuses and etc.
Rhomboids. I don't know.
Non-Newtonian fluids. There's a lot of non-Newtonian fluid exchange. Plus, it's very
certain scenes.
It's very progressive. Men and women shower together. They let Rube from Major League in these movies. I think that's great. Clancy Brown, I love. He can do anything. He plays Mr. Krabs. He's in the Warriors. I think that's a pretty good career. I don't think Casper Van Dien is as bad as he gets credit for, but he's obviously sort of also just like a mirror and a sponge to everything going around him. You see him get influenced by a lot of people. Denise Richards, I think, would be great in a noir film. She has that kind of look and a real smoky voice. There's a couple scenes where she's like, "Oh, Johnny," and I was like, "Wow, you would fit really well as like a woman walking into a private eye's office." RoboCop, I don't know much about anything Peter Weller's done. Most of his career, I would guess, is based around walking and acting like a robot. I know he's in Sons of Anarchy, but he looks like someone ran over a shoe at that point in his career. Yeah, I don't know. There's not a lot of great actors in RoboCop. A lot of decent character actors. I think the Rogues Gallery is interesting. You have the nondescript Asian guy who barely speaks. You have the drug-addled guy who goes to the clubs. You have the crazy wild cannon biker dude who steals a tank of gas and then gets covered in toxic waste. And then you have Kurtwood Smith, I think, is amazing as the bad guy. He really understands what he's going for, and he just chews up the scenery. And the in the background, we're seeing it on our screen right now, the "I'll buy that for $1" guy just reminds me of Idiocracy, where they're watching the show like Kicked in the Nuts or whatever.
Yeah, kick me in the balls or whatever it is. Yeah.
This is what society has devolved into, is just watching this ugly, horny man get covered in pies next to hot women and saying, "I'll buy that for $1," and everyone can't stop laughing. Because the human mind in this world has just degenerated. Everybody is poor and out of work and on drugs, and they'll just laugh at anything that comes across the screen that's being force-fed to them. Which I think you can see kind of, I think Survivor's in its 46th season, so we're not doing very good at holding entertainment accountable for being good. I kind of disagree with what you guys are saying. I think the actors serve the story, and that's the point. He didn't go out and get great actors. Now, could he have? I mean, probably not. Philip Seymour Hoffman's not playing Johnny Rico, although that's a movie I would watch.
Fuck, that sounds great.
Because I think it'd be fucking hilarious. It'd be really interesting. He'd give it his all. I think probably the best actor in Starship Troopers is Dina Meyer as Diz. I mean, I think she actually has an emotional arc. She knows that what she wants is unobtainable, but she can't stop following her heart, even to the point of like joining up and trying to follow this guy just for a chance at him. And even in the end, when she's dying, she's like stuck to her convictions. She cares about this person so much that even though she knows he loves someone else, she's still in love with him. And that's that love rhomboid that Gabe described. So yeah, I think you guys are being a bit harsh on the acting. I don't think it's the point of the films. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I do the robot walk as good as Peter Weller. I don't know.
Really?
I can't not blink as well as he does. He's really good at not blinking. But I would love to know how they got his head in that contraption, because it doesn't look like it adds a lot of extra room for the rest of his face.
Yeah, when they take off his mask.
Oh, did they cut part of his head off? Or
he is actually a robot.
He is actually a robot.
It's not acting. So yeah.
I'd also like to point out that all of the female leads in Starship Troopers have either in this movie or another movie shown their breasts.
What? See, and that did nothing. It did not help.
Just throwing.
I disagree. I disagree
with that.
as basically a middle schooler at heart, that I like seeing boobies in any movie.
No, sorry, this is just like, no, because Verhoeven was behind the camera. I was just like, nope. Sorry.
So if Paul Verhoeven filmed a really good sex scene,
okay, you just like jumped into Fantasyland as soon as you said if Paul Verhoeven filmed a really good, and then you lost me. You lost me.
Okay, right. Okay. Well, Tom hates the Dutch. That's obvious.
Maybe it's a satire sex scene. Did that count?
Oh God, you guys!
Satirical sex. What is that?
I would argue that I engage in that quite often.
I may have without knowing it.
Oh my God, my eyes.
Was that serious or not?
Well, you're welcome.
It's
I
satire.
divulged just completely. This entire podcast is satire, right?
No, but at the end, this is what we're going to tell people.
Yeah, when it's done. Depending on how that's received.
Tom actually really liked these movies. His whole thing was satire.
Yeah.
Satire.
This is
these
not
are
a
his
The
favorite
Room
movies ever.
situation.
I'm
Where The Room
satirizing.
comes out, and then Tommy Wiseau goes, "Oh yeah, it's a dark comedy," and everybody goes, "Bullshit! You made a bad movie." That's not what happened here.
I think that's what happened here.
Just so you know, Kyle, you asked about Peter Weller, what had been doing. In 2004, Weller completed a Master of Arts degree in Roman and Renaissance art at Syracuse University and occasionally taught courses in ancient history at the university. In 2007, he began a PhD at UCLA in Italian Renaissance art. In October 2013, he filed his dissertation, Alberti before Florence, Early Sources Informing Leon Battista Alberti's de Pittura, and was awarded his doctorate in 2014.
Jesus, Mike, please stop speaking Italian. I can only get so
Yeah.
hard.
Bippity boppity.
Yeah.
He is. He's really shaking that RoboCop. I mean, he really wants out of that box.
He's a Renaissance
Yeah.
man.
He
In
is
the literal
literally.
term.
Literal
Renaissance
man.
RoboCop.
Well, I think that's a good place to end this.
Renaissance cop.
Renaissance cop.
Robo
He's
Renaissance
just fucking
cop.
running around looking
It's-
like
It's
There-
going to be a
looking
satire.
Christopher
So-
Columbus fighting crime.
So there's a podcast I listened to called Hello from the Magic Tavern, and one of the wizard's favorite play is called Automaton Constable. So every time I read RoboCop, I think
RoboCop.
Automaton Constable.
That would be if they made this movie in like the 1930s.
Yes.
It would have been called Automaton Constable.
All right, let's put it to a vote, Gabe.
Oh boy. I'm going to give it to Peter Weller for his robot moves in RoboCop.
All right, Tom.
I'm going to go with Starship Troopers because there was a golden girl in it. Rue McClanahan was in Starship Troopers. So I'm
Kyle.
gonna
She
give
looked
it
like
to-
a Hellraiser.
Yeah. Yeah, great acting there.
Kyle.
Just for the line "bitches leave," I'm going to vote for RoboCop.
Gabe. Or wait, Gabe. You already gave it to me.
I already did it.
Andrew.
Starship Bell.
Saved by the Starship
Saved by the
Troopers.
Starship.
Yeah, there you go.
Saved by the Troopers. Ba-ding! There it is.
I knew you'd
There
get
it
there.
is.
Proud of you. During filming, Jake Busey suffered heat stroke after working all day in the 120-degree desert sun, stopping production for a week. When he recovered, several large holes were cut into his uniform so he could cool off. Many other cast member suits had this modification as well, in order to prevent further victims. Still, on average, there were 25 people per day being treated for heat stroke during filming.
Wow.
And they shot most
so
of
Jake Busey's teeth are not a heat sink?
They are not a heat sink.
Oh.
They filmed most of those bug scenes in a place in, I think it's Wyoming, called Hell's Half Acre. That's the actual name of the place.
So what my wife calls my taint.
Dear Lord.
God. Before
gosh.
Peter Weller was
It's
cast,
satire, people.
Before Peter
I'm
Weller was
traumatized.
cast, Rutger Hauer and Michael Ironside were other actors in line to play RoboCop. However, it was decided that they were too large to fit into the costume. Weller
Ouch.
won the role because of his slender 5 foot 10 and a
Yeah.
half frame for the expressiveness, there we go, of his lower face.
Yeah.
Anyone else smell pennies or burnt toast?
No.
All right. Let's move on to the third round, which is directing.
Oh boy. I gotta give. Sorry, I just threw up my mouth. I gotta give Paul Verhoeven some credit. Like when RoboCop walked in the door, he was, smart enough to put the camera below waist level to give RoboCop an impending look. I don't know, man. I'm really gonna put a lot of the acting fault on Paul Verhoeven. I know you guys really you can't really fault the actors because that's not really what they're really going for. But a halfway decent director would realize that this is not good, and it's gonna hurt the legacy of the movie. And I just incredibly disappointed. I'll be honest with you, I had been not watching these movies for so long, and I was looking forward to it. I really thought I was going to enjoy them because I do like satire. But if I had to, okay, I'm going to try to find good things. The special effects in Starship Troopers was actually pretty decent. Is that what it was nominated for Oscar? I'm going to look that up real quick while I'm talking. Yes, best nominee for best visual effects. So, I can't argue that the special effects in Starship Troopers were actually pretty good, all things considered. And amazingly, in 2024, they hold up pretty well. It was a really nice blend of the practical and CGI, the wide shots, CGI stuff, and then the close up of the goo and bodily fluids coming out of the bugs and humans too. They had a lot of bodily fluids there too. So, but yeah, I don't know. If you showed me these two films, and aside from the pop culture references and the, you can always tell when a movie was shot by the coloration of it and the film grain, and sometimes you can tell when a movie is shot. If you take those things aside and you're just watching it, I would assume that Starship Troopers came before Robocop. I think Robocop is a little bit more polished, aside from the special effects. So I don't know. There you go. I talked for 2 minutes about him. Is that good enough? Somebody else want to talk?
This is my favorite round because at the end, Tom has to give Paul Verhoeven a point.
Oh, I have a surprise for you that I haven't quite figured out.
It's unexpected by everyone, including Tom.
Yeah.
Even Tom doesn't know what he'll do.
No.
But he'll blame it on satire.
Yeah.
Or lack thereof.
So there's a lot of similarities in the way these movies are directed because they have the same director. I think you see a lot more freedom, camera movement, a lot more interesting stuff going on in Starship Troopers, probably just because of the budget. And they're, and you'd think that a director over time would maybe evolve his style a bit and not use Zack Snyder. You stay the same. But he got with his cinematographer and got some interesting shots. I think it's not a bad looking movie. Neither of these movies are bad looking movies. I do agree the Starship Troopers CGI holds up really well 27 years later. But that's a lot of the budget of this movie, and I think a lot of the time and effort in this movie went into the CGI. Maybe that's why they had to cast such cheap actors. Although I think at the time, Denise Richards, maybe she wasn't that cheap. I don't know. But I don't know if this is before or after she got Charlie Sheen. But RoboCop is much flatter, darker, grittier. He's a very stoic, slow-moving character, so there's a lot of slow-moving pans and zooms and walks with him, and they obviously like showing off the cool suit they built, so they do a lot of those glory shots of that suit. I still think RoboCop probably has one of the coolest guns in sci-fi or action. That 3-round burst gun with the star-shaped muzzle fire is really badass. I do know that in one of the scenes, and I hope I'm not giving away any trivia, but they would do unexpected things on takes to get realistic reactions from the actors. So when Kurtwood Smith spits blood at the police station, that is improvised. Only he and Verhoeven knew about that. He gave Kurtwood Smith a blood pack in his mouth, and he just said, do something with this. So he spits it on the booking thing and says, give me a fucking lawyer or whatever. And the guy's reaction when he goes, oh, shit, that's real. He did not know that was going to happen.
I think that's Paul Verhoeven's that's what he tells everyone on the set. Do something with this.
Yeah. Put this in your mouth and make this better. But
Yeah.
I think when he gives that, I think he trusts Kurtwood Smith to do something with that, and he fucking nailed it. I think he is probably the best part of RoboCop. He is like this drug-addled, super smart, super ruthless, tied-in bad guy, and to see that guy go on and, like I said, be the dad in that 70s show, I think that's a crazy juxtaposition. And he's really good in the movie. Yeah, I don't know that he was super interested in getting the best performances, just the performances that he thought would serve whatever he was trying to do the best. Whether that's right or wrong, we'll talk about it. And yeah, I think he just told Michael Ironside, be Michael Ironside, do your thing. Same with Clancy Brown. He's like, you've been doing this for 40 years. Just go out there and look like a drill sergeant. So, sometimes that stuff works, sometimes it doesn't. You can put some bad performances on the director if you're like, this guy's capable of way more and you're not getting anything out of them. It's either the actor phoning it in or the director just not giving a shit. And I don't know. We can argue about which of those is actually true in this statement. But that scene right now that's showing on Twitch where they have the lady held up by knife and RoboCop comes out of his car and they're like, stay back, man, we'll kill her. And he's triangulating his crotch through. I mean, how do you not? Chef's kiss. That's best director material. He's heat seeking that guy's packet through that lady's sundress. I mean, that's amazing. So on that, A+, both movies A+.
Dear Lord.
Wow.
You know what, Tom, I have to agree with one thing that you said about RoboCop, and that's the lower angle stuff. But it's not just the one shot when they introduce RoboCop. There are a lot of them. He really likes his low angle Dutch angles. Like there are a ton in the movie.
Yeah, he kept that up.
I believe he is Dutch.
Oh,
well, I'm not sure. I'm not.
We're done.
So he just calls them our normal angles.
Oh well, my mistake.
I want this to be a me shot.
But there is
like in
me
China,
angle.
a panda bear is just called a regular bear. Dutch angles to a Dutchman are just sets a camera up normal.
Are you trying to say that like? Yeah. Anyways, that was one of the things that I did notice as a director was really bizarre to me, that there were so many low angles of RoboCop, and it was very, very constant. And I'm not sure if the idea was to portray him as a bigger, mightier kind of superhero type thing, and that was his way of doing it. I don't know, but it was very obvious to me, and it repeated over and over and over again. So I don't know. That was my one thing I did notice.
Yeah, I think it was probably important to make RoboCop look large and imposing and
that's
frightening
sure.
that way. Yeah.
I'm just not sure that's the best way to do it, but I think what you said when he first shows RoboCop and they do the low angle and he comes out and it's this menacing, it's the beauty shot in a sense of RoboCop. I think that works, but like every single time, like when he's at the gas station, when he's, capturing people, when he's shooting somebody, like everything is this low angle. It's really weird to me. I don't know.
I saw that as, I mean, kind of like a filmmaker 101, like that, when you first get it, people are like, you show kids how to like use a camera and it's like, oh, get down low. It looks like somebody, you're showing them the basics. It's just like, okay, so, all right, Paul Verhoeven made it through the first day of film class, so that's good.
Next day they showed him dolly zoom, and you don't want to see that movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I feel a little bit the opposite of what Tom mentioned earlier, in that I think these movies show a little bit of a progression for Paul Verhoeven. I feel like, I feel like there's a lot of improvement between RoboCop and Starship Troopers. Like, I feel like certain things, well, like we're talking about camera angles, pacing, in those kinds of things improved over time. I think, but that may also relate to the budget, because it's pretty clear that there was a much larger budget for Starship Troopers. I can't talk, because I mean, look at the visual effects, and look at how much, you look at things like, well, they had scenes in Starship Troopers where all these people were dressed in military uniforms, and they had the helmets and they had the armor and that kind of stuff. It's like, well, it's clear that there's a much larger budget for this film than there was for RoboCop. And I don't know what the progression is exactly, if it's a progression in his directing skill, or if it's more of a progression in the amount of money he has to use. I'm not quite sure. But I feel like there is a progression there, in the opposite direction that Tom mentioned earlier. And I maybe this goes into overall. Maybe I'll wait on some of my observations on RoboCop and the storyline and how it ended and that kind of stuff. But I'll leave that for overall. But I don't know what I think. Paul Verhoeven is really there. He's really directing for the spectacle. He's really directing for the shock value of it, and is not necessarily looking for a great story or great performances from the actors. It's let's make this a spectacle. That's kind of my feeling.
Well, think about how many years we're removed from RoboCop. Murphy's death is still incredibly gruesome, despite all the things we have seen and all the gore and violence we've been, desensitized to. That's still an absolutely brutal murder. And I think, I'm not saying that like, oh, that's great or whatever, but he made it memorable, and he made it stand out, and he made it part of the tapestry of the movie that was about this hyper violence and crazy violence against citizens and lawlessness and things like that. So he did do some things that really stuck with people. The guy getting doused in toxic waste and then run over, like that's a crazy memorable scene, right? Like, so he does pull off some very memorable set pieces and things like that you remember. I think in RoboCop 3 he gets a jetpack. I don't think Paul Verhoeven directed that one, but yeah. So there is definite, there's growth in RoboCop. It's an unlimited IP. You just keep churning them out.
Oh God, please stop.
I mean, the remake now with Joel Kinnaman is 10 years old. So I think
the remake
due.
is? Well, there was
2014.
There was 10 years in between RoboCop and Starship Troopers, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost exactly 10 years. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, which is crazy. Yeah.
I love it.
I did not.
Well, I was
just in case that was up in the air. I just want to make sure.
I was a little more disappointed in these movies than I expected to be. I had seen them both when I was younger, but I expected to enjoy them more than I actually did this last time.
Definitely, I definitely thought I was going to enjoy them too, and I just I don't know, you make like an 80s action film and you're like, well, we'll do the violence even more than any other movie has done it before.
Right.
Like, that's not satire. I mean, I don't know, which is interesting because like right now in 2024, I think you could do a really powerful satirical RoboCop movie right now. Like that is a message that would hit with a lot of people on a lot of different levels, and people would argue about it if you did it well. But I don't know. It just kind of came off. RoboCop especially came off like revenge porn, or just like I didn't like it. Didn't like it at all.
I just want to point out that I think in the first whole thing where RoboCop goes out into the world for the very first time, he kills more people than he helps. He kills all of the bad. He kills all the bad guys. He doesn't even get it. And the one guy in the gas station, he may or may not have survived after being thrown into the cooler by, across the room, but he just leaves him there. Like, he just hits him. He flies him, and then RoboCop's like, "Yep, I'm out. Peace. Next crime."
Well, that to me would tip me off that he is dead or severely brain compromised, because he probably has at least sensors to tell how this guy's doing, and he's like, "Oh, this guy is no longer a threat."
He shot the other guy in the penis and then walked off. Took the chick with him. He's like, "Yep, next crime." Check.
But I mean, that was effective, was it not? I mean, shooting a rapist in the dick is probably the best poetic justice you can have.
But again, I think that goes back to Tom's comment about revenge porn, though, because again, the guy that is sitting in his office being like, "I want my job back." RoboCop grabs him through the wall and then throws him out the window. Like, where? What? For being a just cop, he's very unjust.
Right, but you don't see any of these things as commentary on police brutality?
No,
because that's exactly how it read to me in the movie.
I tried. I really went into thinking like, "Oh, this is what this will be about," but no, because I feel like they overshot it so badly. Like, it's so far over the top that. And there's a substantial, probably borderline majority of the population who are not going to get that this is satire. And they're going to get off on the, police revenge porn. And it's just like...
Well, I think that would say more about them than it does the movie.
That's perfectly fair, but, you got to know your audience. So
maybe this is more into overall then.
Yes,
we're bleeding.
Oh,
we're bleeding, so to speak, into the next category.
It's my round. Shut the fuck up. I'm not done.
Wow, I was trying to help.
Remember, there was a mention of 3-minute rounds earlier, and we cannot stick to 15 minutes.
I am trying to.
I was wrong.
Tom, vote.
I'm done. End the round.
Vote.
It's time to vote. Poke the monkey. Whatever.
You need to vote.
You have to vote.
Oh, fuck. God, this round's just getting longer. Direction. I'll give it to RoboCop in honor of Paul Verhoeven's first day at film school.
Andrew.
I'm going to go with Starship Troopers.
All right. Kyle.
Tom say RoboCop bad. I'll vote for Starship Troopers.
I just said RoboCop. Yeah, that's it.
It's satire, Tom.
Gabe.
Starship Troopers.
Oh, man. The screenplay for RoboCop had been offered to and rejected by virtually every big director in Hollywood before Paul Verhoeven got a hold of it. He received it while on holiday in France and threw it away after reading the first pages, convinced it was just a dumb action movie. After going for a swim, he found his wife Martine reading the script and told her, "Well, that's a piece of shit." However, she had read it all the way through and disagreed, saying the story was layered with many satirical and allegorical elements, which convinced him to direct the film.
I want to know if she really said that.
Director Paul Verhoeven and stars Dina Meyer and Casper Van Dien confirmed that Verhoeven and cinematographer Joost Volcano shot the co-ed shower scene in the nude themselves on a dare from Meyer, and it helped, added Verhoeven. On the day of the shoot, Verhoeven had cleared the set of everyone except himself. Volcano and the cast... except for himself, Volcano and the cast, and asked them to do a little fashion show without fashion so they could get comfortable being naked. When the cast was reluctant to disrobe, Verhoeven asked them what the big deal was, to which Meyer responded, "Paul, if it's no big deal, why don't you do it?" Quite unexpectedly, both Verhoeven and Volcano got undressed. Verhoeven later admitted that he found it somewhat difficult, but told Volcano, hey, we need to give an example. Volcano concurred and had no problem with it as he had been raised in nudity camps. The effort paid off because after initial shock, Van Dien reportedly yelled, "Oh God, Dino, why?" Everyone started to laugh, and the scene was filmed without problems. It's often credited as the first mixed shower scene, but the first actually belongs to Robocop.
Really?
Yep.
Where's it in RoboCop?
It is a very quick scene when they're in the shower.
In the locker room.
Yep, in the locker room.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
It seems like, yeah.
How weird is that to have your director sitting there next
Butt
to
ass
the camera,
naked.
butt ass naked? All
And
right,
the
guys,
cinematographer butt
here
ass
we
naked.
go.
I think
Take
I think you
one.
should direct like that all the time. Even if the actors are fully clothed, just you direct it
Just
in the
straight
nude.
naked.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
Remind me.
right here. Look at me, right into the
Yeah,
camera.
right,
Keep looking
right.
at me.
Yeah,
You're
up,
good. You're
up.
good.
The lens is up here. Lens is up here.
All right, let's move on to our fourth and
Start
final
saying
round
my microphone.
overall.
Oh gosh, that's me, isn't it? Okay. I'm gonna go through the stuff that actually I think matters the most in these films. I would say that out of the two of them, minus all the other stuff that we've talked about, we're going to talk a little bit about visual effects, because there are some incredible visual effects, special effects, and some amazing prosthetics and makeup that is done in both of these movies. And I do at least want to tip my hat to both of those things. In RoboCop, the one gentleman at the very end gets burned by acid. That entire costume and makeup piece and prosthetics that they added onto it are absolutely incredible. It's highly detailed, very well done, and props out to the people that actually put that together. We can actually talk about, a lot of the violence, especially when Murphy gets his hand shot off and gets shot, and all of the prosthetics and the blood bags and everything else that were going on there. But, there's the one very obvious one, which is RoboCop. When he takes his helmet off, he has half a face. And it's like in this body that it doesn't look natural. It looks like his face was peeled across the front of a robot. And they do it really well. And they built a really good suit and prosthetics to make that merger look really, really believable. And I think that kind of stuff holds up really, really well. Even today, it looks as good as any. Today they probably would do it CG, and they didn't really have that option back then. Going to Starship Troopers actually has some. I know why they were nominated for visual effects, purely because if you look at the time period. Well, let's start off with one. Let's talk about an actual special effect. They held the record for the largest explosion on screen up until James Bond. I don't remember which James Bond, but one of the newer ones with Daniel Craig. But they held it for like 20 years. And they built this giant gasoline explosion that they filmed with huge fireballs and huge things happening all around them. And that's incredible. And the fact that they held that for 20 years just gives a shout out to the visual effects, the special effects teams. And then visual effects. Heck, they mixed all of the bugs with animatronics. They did life-size bugs, and they did CG bugs. Now, this is 1997. They're doing high-quality computer-animated bugs that definitely hold up still today. They basically invented the very first crowd control because they had thousands of bugs running on the screen all at one time. That had never been done before and seemed to be almost impossible. It took them 60 hours to render. Oh, am I taking your trivia? I'll be quiet.
You're all right. You're all right. Go
Okay,
ahead.
I love the visual effects in this movie because they did such amazing stuff coming off of Jurassic Park that I got so excited about it. So yes, it took 60 hours to render one frame of some of these animations that they did with these bugs. 60 hours. And even one of the animation heads, they built some of the models of the bugs, and he basically invented a 3D scanner to be able to scan these bugs in to have realistic looking ones in the computer. And all of this stuff is stuff we take for granted now with visual effects that they actually just did back in the 90s. It's like no one was doing that. So I have to give it to, the visual effects and special effects departments in both of these movies. They did some amazing things. They overcame some very difficult problems to be able to give us a movie that we got that, like I said, the special effects hold up in both very, very well. So that's my big shout out. That is beyond everything else that we've talked about and all the craziness and negativity. This was the one positive thing that I really enjoy about these movies that really shine through. So
I'm talk about RoboCop's head real quick. I know he gets shot in the head, but in the top right hand side of his head where the bullet went through, doesn't it look like they just left the bullet there and kind of painted over it? There's like a Frankenstein bolt up there, and it really bugged me the whole movie.
The bulge.
I was like, why does it look like the end of the bullet is still sticking out of his head? You can't fix that. Also, I thought it was comical the way they focus RoboCop's head is by using a Phillips screwdriver on the side of his head, and it makes the grid smaller until it disappears. That was Jesus. That was, next level filmmaking. I'm talking about the music real quick. I agree with you on the special effects, by the way. I think they're great in these movies. The practical effects, the explosions, things like that in RoboCop are amazing. The music, RoboCop has a really badass theme. I like RoboCop's theme. His hero theme is really good. Starship Troopers, I honestly didn't notice any of the music. The way it was shot, I was just waiting for some of those 90s songs to start playing, like My Own Worst Enemy by Lit, or I was just waiting for I was just waiting for something like that to just kick in during the football game or something. It just had that feeling to it. But
boys are back in town. Boys are back in town.
Yeah, they're luckily he had some restraint there.
Some restraint. Okay, so of everything I hated about these two movies,
right,
not total. No, because when Xander and Rico get into a fight, Mazzy Star's Fade Into You is playing in the background, and I swear to God, I have no idea why that song is in that part. There's a love. I'm not kidding. But Mazzy Star's biggest hit ever, Fade Into You, is playing underneath Rico and Xander's fight, and I had to went back, watched it 3 times. I'm like, is that fucking Mazzy Star?
Interesting.
Post grunge love song? What the? I really think somebody left their music playing. It got left in. It doesn't make any sense at all.
It was the love rhombus that was breaking right there. And so
it was opposite. Opposite corners of the rhombus.
Satire.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty good satire to play a love song through a fight.
It was a very homoerotic fight. Now that I think about it, yes, thank you.
Yeah, there was. You could tell they wanted to
they were fading into each other.
Yes. I give something to this movie that I really liked the lore of Starship Troopers a bit. You're fed just enough information about the bugs that humans think they are stupid and will be easy to defeat, and then when they arrive, they find out that they're in for a much harder fight than they anticipated, but they never admit that to the public. It's so clearly a play on government misinformation and things like that I really liked. And I love the fake propaganda pieces in this where the kids are stomping on cockroaches as if that somehow helps the war effort. The little kid joining in and saying, I'm doing my part too, and all the people laughing. And I think in Starship Troopers or in RoboCop, or maybe both, they definitely let kids handle guns just willy nilly, and I was like, holy shit, that's really funny. And yeah,
The future.
that's right. I think that's the point of those scenes.
Children are our future.
Yeah, well, children with guns are our future. I think it's. I just like to point out one thing I absolutely love in all 80s and 90s action movies, and that is where there is a heist, and now there are a couple duffel bags full of cash that are then used as a device to stop someone from chasing them, or the money becomes worthless because of a die pack, or it's all burned up. But in this one, they kind of circumvented that by grabbing one of the guys who had been shot and asking if he can fly, and then throwing him directly at a cop car, which was pretty good. That's pretty good.
And speaking of the propaganda, I mean, in Starship Troopers, again, we take some of the graphics that they did about, would you like to learn more, and having the click, and we kind of take that for granted. But in '97, the internet was really, really young. There wasn't a lot of that, so it was forethought and having that kind of interface and that kind of thing that we look at. We're like, yeah, it looks like a cheesy website, but that was like not really a thing then. So
yeah, move over, Al Gore. Paul Verhoeven invented the internet.
Right.
How about the internet's face? And we could see
the face of the internet.
That tracks. That's
the only good book is
the internet we have. The internet we have now is about what I think Verhoeven would do with it. So,
well, then I would call him a soothsayer.
Well, I have to give a tippet of the hat to Phil Tippett on both of these movies. Fantastic work. You're welcome. But really, like, fantastic work on these movies. I loved it. You could tell that it was stop motion or go motion or whatever they called it at the time on the robot. What was the name of the alternative robot? Ed
209. Yeah.
It wasn't.
Yeah. You could tell it was stop motion or go motion, but man, it was so well done, and it was really kind of still, even now, I was like, that thing is kind of badass. And then when Robocop, blows its head off and it falls down and its foot twitches, I'm like, that's a great touch. And that to me, it's a little goofy, but it's a really great touch, and that's kind of, to me, like a the sign of a pro doing it. And then all his work on the bugs in Starship Troopers, especially the brain bug, which was very different than the other ones. It was very kind of, soft and,
wet.
It
had
wet
an
and
obvious,
yeah.
Had an obvious shape to its mouth.
Right, but the work on that was just fantastic. So
Andrew is freaking out with his hand raised.
So the big robot that has the two guns, the RX, whatever what's called,
Ed 209.
Ed 209. So yes, there was some stop motion with a semi miniature, but for the scenes when it actually comes in, that is a full sized actual robot puppet that is actually being controlled, that they filmed at 120 frames per second and then slowed down to make it look jittery, so
heavier.
It matched. So it would
did,
match the stop motion stuff that they had to do later.
Yeah, and he did a lot of work on Star Wars and that kind of stuff, and that was a common technique to film it at a higher frame rate and then slow it down, because it makes it look bulkier and heavier than it really is.
So I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah, but fantastic work there. I have to give him a lot of credit for the visual effects in both of these movies, because he was apparently always kind of pushing the limits of that stuff and creating memorable moments in all of these, both of these movies and others. And then Basil Polidoris, who did the music in both of these movies, I have to give him credit too because it was very enjoyable. And one of my favorite scores from him is from Conan the Barbarian. He did the Conan the Barbarian score as well, and I really enjoy that very much. And yeah, I think one of the high points, we've been pretty critical of these movies from, writing, acting, directing. But I think a high point for both of these movies is the visual effects and how they pushed the limits and moved visual effects and practical effects forward.
Again, I think that's the end
crowd,
of the show.
Crowd sims didn't actually get invented and showed up until the Lord of the Rings.
Right. Yeah, that's a very famous example of it too.
Yes.
Where they basically had,
Weta is the ones that actually cracked that code. So the fact that they did that back in the 90s is pretty impressive.
I want to give a shout out to a Mythbuster who actually worked on Robocop, Jamie Heineman.
Oh, really?
Worked on Robocop, yeah.
Was he the guy in the beret?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. No, I mean in the movie. There was like a walrus in a beret.
Yes.
Yes, on both accounts.
Am I thinking of Tusk?
You might be.
Maybe.
All right. Let's put it to a vote.
Oh, thank God.
Andrew.
I will go with Starship Troopers.
All right. Kyle.
I think these are both wonderful satire films, but RoboCop may be the quintessential satirical film of all time, and I think it's a nearly perfect movie. So I'm going to go with RoboCop.
All right. Gabe.
Starship Troopers.
And Tom.
I usually base this on replayability. We talk about that a lot on the show. Which one of these are we going to come back to? When we want to, watch a steaming pile of shit, which one do I want to see? And I'll probably just make a dentist appointment at that point. So I'm going to go with RoboCop.
All right.
Because it'll probably be easier to sleep through.
The design of the bugs are slightly revised from an unused monster design for Tremors 2 Aftershocks. During the making of Tremors 2, they developed two monster designs for Shriekers in that movie. One was used for Tremors 2 and the other was slightly revised and used for Starship Troopers. Both films' special effects were supplied by, say it all at once, Phil Tippett, who had been working on the two films at the same time. If you look closely, the Bug Warriors share the mandibles as the graboids share the same mandibles as the graboids from Tremors. Some of the swarm scenes took up to, this is from what I got, Andrew, 32 hours per frame to render, until someone came up with the idea that they could streamline the renders of background bugs, actually giving them less detail, and they were able to take it down to 18 hours per frame to render. That's just insane.
Yeah.
10 seconds, that's 240 frames.
Yep. It took almost 10 months of preparation for the construction of the RoboCop suit. Life casts of Peter Weller and 6-foot clay models created by Rob Bottin were used to design and construct the suit. However, the production team wasn't satisfied with the first design and kept changing it and putting additions to it for months based on the influences from Japanese comic books. Ultimately, nothing seemed to work, so they went back to what was pretty much Bottin's original design. This caused considerable delays, and by the time the suit was completed, the crew had already been shooting and idling around for 2 weeks, filming shots that didn't require the suit. It arrived on the day that the first RoboCop scene was pushed back to, so Peter Weller had no time to rehearse in it. It took 11 hours for Bottin's people to fit Weller into the suit, And when it was done, he found that all his mime exercises were now useless because he needed time to get used to the suit and to perform as a robot in it. After tempers flared, production was halted for a few days so that Weller and his mime coach, Moni Yakum, could learn how to move in the suit. There were 7 suits total and cost between $500,000 to $1 million for those suits.
Yikes.
And I was reading some of the other trivia, and in all the driving scenes that you see RoboCop driving, he is just wearing the top part of it and sitting in his underwear. Driving the car.
Yeah, you can't have the lower half of that in there if he's driving.
No.
There's no way.
All right.
Yeah. I wish I had known that back when we did the acting category. I may have voted differently.
Yeah, Peter Weller in his underwear.
Yeah.
Peter Weller in his underwear. All right.
So everyone got naked on both of these sets is what we're really trying to say here, kids.
Yeah, there seems to be kind of a theme.
I don't know if you guys have ever watched the Netflix show, The Movies That Made Us, but they have a really good episode about RoboCop where Peter Weller was very much a character actor, so people could only call him by his character name or call him Robo. And Peter Weller denies
one
this,
of those.
But I can't remember. One of the crew members was up on this catwalk, and the crew member had some Oreos, and they were in between these takes. And so the crew member's eating Oreos, and Peter Weller would look over and say, "Robo want Oreo." And the guy's like, "Fuck off, Peter." And just sitting there eating his Oreos. And then you'd hear Robo want Oreo, like a little bit more angry. And he's like, "No, I'm not giving you my Oreos." Until finally he just took him and chucked him off the catwalk. The crew member did. He goes, there are your Oreos, Robo.
Wow.
So
that explains the scene in the movie where there's like all this black and white shit in Peter Weller's teeth. And he looks like Mr. Ed talking because he's been woofing down Oreos.
But I just found it funny. Robo want Oreo. All right. Let's move on to recommendations for this month. We will start with Kyle.
Ooh, I hope I get to steal this from someone. So I don't go out to the movie theaters too much, probably more than the average person, but I wanted to go out to see the new George Miller movie. When George Miller puts out a movie, I want to see it. So Mad Max Fury Road, I think, like RoboCop, is almost a perfect movie. It's amazing. One of my favorite action films, one of my favorite spectacle films. Just an incredible film, I think, from front to back. I haven't watched it again in a while, so I may change my opinion. But I went to the theater and I saw Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, and I absolutely loved it. I'm going to go back now and watch Happy Feet. I'm going to go back now and watch all of George Miller's other stuff because I think it's all got to be this good. But I loved Chris Hemsworth's sort of over-the-top caricature as a villain.
Oh, my God. He was fantastic.
I loved finding out about the lore of Bullet Town and Gas Town and all these other things in the desert. I liked Immortan Joe, that he's such a fucking cool looking villain, and his creepy sons and all the people around him and the War Boys. Just, I loved it. And the action scenes again are amazing. I liked the new Road Warrior. Like, it was, man, did I enjoy Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. So check it out.
I 100% agree with you, Kyle.
Yeah. I haven't seen the new one yet, but I think Mad Max Fury Road is one of my favorite movies in a long, long time.
Oh,
and I've watched it over and over and over, and I enjoy it every time.
Yeah, Furiosa is great.
Yeah, I gotta go see that. Okay, well, here's the connection. I'm gonna try to explain the connection. I mentioned Basil Polydoros doing the music for Conan the Barbarian, and Arnold Schwarzenegger is in Conan the Barbarian, And we watched the new Netflix documentary about Arnold Schwarzenegger called, appropriately, Arnold.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really fascinating. It's really interesting. And I really enjoyed it. It really is an interesting portrait of Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I think it reveals things that we don't know about him, or we don't expect about him. You know, he's very he's very strong-willed, very motivated, but he's also got kind of an emotional and softer side to him, and he's I think probably smarter than we give him credit for. And it's a three-part series. The first part focuses on his bodybuilding career, the second part on his acting career, and the third part is called American, or The American, or something like that. And it kind of focuses on his citizenship and his service as a politician and that kind of thing. And I found it far more interesting than I expected to. So I would highly recommend Arnold on Netflix.
That's a good recommendation. I've been a huge Arnold fan, so when I saw that pop up, I had to watch it. It's really well done.
It is. It's very well done.
Tom?
So if you're like me, I haven't really figured out where to put Glenn Powell. I feel like Hidden Figures and Top Gun Maverick, he was good in them, but it was also kind of forgettable. Like, I can't really get my mind around, like, is he a good actor or anything like that? So I saw a movie that I finished watching today called Hitman that just came out on Netflix. It stars Glenn Powell in it, and he has some really good comedic acting chops. So the story is, he is a college professor who moonlights as a undercover hitman to bust people who are, like, trying to hire a hitman. And so he sets them up and records them and takes their money, and then they go to jail. And then things get complicated. And Glenn Powell is really, really funny in this movie because he has to take on multiple personalities as he's trying to, not entrap, but, catch these people that are, looking for a hired gun. So I watched this, and now I am a Glenn Powell fan. I think he's very, very funny. He's got some really good acting abilities, and it's more than just, a dark romantic comedy. There's also a lot of stuff in here about the ability for can somebody change who they are? Or if somebody assumes the role of somebody else, will that change them? And there's a little bit of psychology and philosophy in the movie as well to kind of give it some depth. And I really, really liked it. And now I am really looking forward to seeing him in Twisters in a couple of weeks. So I recommend Hitman. It's out on Netflix. Check it out.
All right. I've been meaning to watch it.
His
It's fun.
over-the-top U.S. American guy, when he's standing there pulling the skeet shooting for that guy, is probably one of my favorite scenes.
That is really...
He's so funny in that.
Each time he comes out with a different personality, it's just like, wow, he's got a lot more range than I ever gave him credit for. So it's a really fun movie to sit down and watch.
Great recommendation.
Thanks, Tom. Andrew?
I wasn't sure what I was going to recommend based on all of this other stuff. I even thought about doing like Starship Troopers 2, 3, and 4, but that seemed kind of out of place compared to their quality. And so I was a little surprised that this one hasn't been recommendation. I would consider this more of a satire, but it is definitely a comedy, and it has some very interesting people in it. But one of the best character played ever would be Jack Nicholson as the President of the United States. And it is super fantastic. It is hilarious. There's goofiness. Jack Black makes a cameo early in his career. It is a funny movie. It is hilarious in multiple ways, and that is Mars Attacks. And if you haven't seen Mars Attacks, you should probably stop what you're doing and go watch Mars Attacks right now. Watch it.
Unless you're driving.
You're driving.
Please finish driving.
Or you're listening to this podcast, finish the podcast, then go watch Mars Attacks once you get home, or you get done listening to the podcast.
My absolute favorite scene is Jack Nicholson as the president, and the aliens take care of that nuke, and he just puts his hands up in the air.
Yep.
And just the way he looks is priceless.
I just like where they have the translator box and they're walking around, mah, 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 and it's like, don't run. We will not hurt you. And they're shooting, killing people. It's freaking great.
So Kyle did not take my recommendation, but it is one of two new movies that I've actually been able to go out and watch. And last night, I went with my brother-in-law, Trevor, because it's usually him that I'm going to see movies with. And we saw the fourth film in a series that I absolutely love. I have been a fan of Bad Boys ever since the first one. I love the second one. I love the third one. And the fourth one was so much fun. And the chemistry between Will Smith and Martin Lawrence is still great. So I've got to recommend Bad Boys Ride or Die. There are camera angles, camera shots. There are things that they do that is unbelievable. And I absolutely loved watching this movie. So if you get a chance, watch Bad Boys Ride or Die. It is a ton of fun.
Is it directed by?
The same two directors that directed the last one, Bad Boys for Life. Adil El Arbi and Bilal Fallah. And I've just butchered those names.
Wasn't sure.
But they make it feel like old school Bad Boys, like the first movie. There are, it's just well done. And if you watch it, just watch it for Reggie's part. I don't know if you guys know who Reggie is, but Reggie was the young man that showed up to take the daughter out in Bad Boys 2. He's in the movie, and there is a scene that is so well done that I was laughing my ass off and clapping at the same time. It's really good. And Joe Pants shows up, and there are actually 3 really good cameos, but I don't want to spoil this. All right. Let's poke the monkey, find out who won.
Do we care?
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Your winner, by decision, is Starship Trooper!
Oh my gosh. Hang on. I'll write the press release. Did you want this just going to domestic newspapers, or would you like overseas as well?
I would like overseas, please.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, you would like El Paz to know what we're doing?
Yes.
All right. Okay.
And to all the men and women fighting overseas and all the ships at sea, I want everyone to know that Starship Troopers won.
All right.
I know this was difficult for Tom to get through, but I actually enjoyed watching these movies again. Starship Troopers to me has always just been a blast. Like, it's just dumb fun. And Robocop, I'm still getting over my PTSD of seeing it when I was 9 years old. But every time I watch it, I pick out something different that kind of helps take me away from the void of wanting to go.
By PTSD, do you mean pretty terrific satire, dude?
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I do.
Yeah, I'm trying to get over how good these movies are too.
The Starship Troopers makes it all right.
I'm looking forward to getting back to some really good quality cinema. Hey, what are our 2 movies next month, Michael?
Well, please leave us a review on whatever podcasting service you use. It helps us reach new listeners. If you like us, tell your friends. If you hate us, tell your enemies. You can contact us at cinesmack@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Just search Cinesmack. If you want to listen to an unedited version of the show, you can catch us live on Twitch whenever we record an episode. And Tom, in July, we attempt to talk about 2 movies in 60 minutes. The Fast and the Furious races for pink slips against Gone in 60 Seconds. Something family.
Don't we have like some Oscar winners we can talk about or something? Fine.
For Andrew, Tom, Kyle, Gabe, and myself, thanks for listening, and go catch a flick.
It's afraid. It's afraid!
Oh, thank God it's over.
Tom. I've just decided Tom doesn't like movies.
I think in 15 years I have proven that I love movies.
I think you have a
bad
problem with
movies.
the Dutch. You're a lot like Goldmember. You're reminding me of Goldmember.
I honestly have. I am a huge fan of the town of Rotterdam. Amsterdam is on my short list of
He
places
likes
to visit
Dutch
overseas.
letters?
I love the Dutch.
He loves
I
going
don't
to
like
Pella.
Dutch letters.
Rotterdam, but
I
not
don't like
Amsterdam.
Dutch letters. I think Dutch letters are fucking bland as shit. I don't know.
I
There
think
we
you
go.
heard what
Okay,
you
there's
said,
a
Mike.
negative. He loves going to Pella during tulip time.
I like going to Pella, not during tulip time. Although Pella is kind of creepy, like on a Saturday night, like you're just like, hey, let's go to Pella and hang out. It's not. It's like a ghost town.
No
It's
one's
weird.
ever said that. No one's ever said, let's go
Yeah,
to Pella.
I don't think I've ever heard that
Yeah.
phrase.
Saturday.
A lot of my friends, the first company I worked for in Des Moines was owned by a couple of guys who were from Pella, and they hired preferentially from people who graduated from Central College, and a lot of my friends now are from Central College, and I don't think they ever even said that.
No, it's
No.
like we stayed at a hotel one Saturday night last summer for our anniversary, and I was like, hey, let's go walk around. I'm like, does anyone live in this town? Like, it's like
Not after dark. That should
After
be a
dark,
tip. You've
yeah.
seen enough movies to know that if there's no one out after dark, you shouldn't be out either.
Correct.
yes, that is the
Yeah.
benefit of some bad movies, that they do teach
Dutch.
you that valuable lesson.
Dutch vampires or something.
Yes, Dutch vampires.
You weren't attacked because you don't like Dutch letters. Now, if you would have
That's
eaten
right.
Dutch letters, they would have attacked you.
Ooh,
See,
eh,
Mike,
Yeah.
I thought you said Tom liked Dutch rudders.
Oh, well, he likes Dutch rudders too.
If you hide in the tulips, they can't get you. They
Yes.
the tulips protect you. They cannot harm a tulip.
And a question, were you wearing wooden shoes when you were there?
no, I was not.
Okay, so see, they couldn't track you either. So you did everything correct.
So the dead
Hey, you
Dutch
lucked out.
echolocate using the sound of your claws?
Yes, because
There's a
the
great
Dutch
scene.
vampires are blind.
There's a great scene where someone sharpens their claws into stakes and kills the Dutch vampire. Come on. That's begging to be written.
yeah, that's good, because
Just
then
was.
if you see two sets of fang bites in the neck, you know that they went Dutch.
Well, that was great.
Well, that's got to be the name of the. It's got to be Going Dutch. It's got to be
Going
the name of
Dutch.
it's the name of the movie, right?
Oh my god.
This is gold. Gold.
Yes. Oh my God. Are you recording this?
I am
This is
recording
good.
this.
This has been a test of the Southsider Studios podcast system. This was only a test. If this were a true lack of entertainment, your head would explode. Go to iTunes and subscribe to our feed. Just search Southsider Studios.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.